Granada, en Bogotá, Colombia. Transmite UMNG Radio. UMNG Radio. Una emisora alternativa, cultural e independiente. Desde la Universidad Militar Nueva Granada. Esta es UMNG Radio.
Tune in and speak up. Hello, English learners. Want to learn something interesting whilst having fun? Welcome to Tune In and Speak Up, the podcast where you'll get to know this beautiful language in depth. Each week, we'll dive into exciting topics, share practical tips, and tell you fascinating English language stories. So whether you're studying, going to work, or just relaxing, connect, listen, and let's make English part of your world. Wherever you are, whenever you want, just hit play, tune in and listen up. Tune in to UMNG Radio every Tuesday from 11 a.m. till noon. Don't just learn English, live it.
Hey, welcome everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Tune In and Speak Up, the podcast from Universidad Militar Nueva Granada, where we explore curious stories, surprising facts, and cultural insights from around the world, all through the lens of English learning. This is the podcast where unusual events from history and culture become your classroom for English practice. I'm Jorge Bermúdez, teacher of English at the Department of Multicultural Studies at UMNG, part of the School of Education and Humanities. I'll be your guide through some of the most unusual and thought-provoking topics, from ancient archaeological sites to forgotten inventions and strange scientific discoveries. Whether you're learning English as a second language or just love learning something new, this podcast is for you. Ready to improve your listening skills, expand your vocabulary, and engage in meaningful conversations? Then grab your headphones, tune in, and let's speak up.
Lo que ocurre en la universidad, los acontecimientos y sus protagonistas están en UMNG Radio.
Okay, so let's begin. Let's introduce our topic. Today, we're going to travel through time and around the world. We'll look at some of the most mysterious and incredible places ever built by human hands. These are places that have made people wonder, could aliens have helped build them? This episode is inspired by an article written by Nadia Drake for National Geographic. Here we can see in the slide the website of National Geographic. The article is titled, "Were these ancient sites built by aliens? Here's why some people think so." It was published on August 11th, 2025, so it's been around for less than a month, and it's really, really interesting. You can find this on www.nationalgeographic.com. Okay, so look for these articles here. Leonardo is showing us some of the articles. So the inspiration for this podcast comes from this article. The places are similar, not all of them, and then I decided to expand this to make it more interesting and more accessible for all of you. Why is this topic so fascinating? Well, for thousands of years, humans have created monuments and structures that are huge, complex, and beautiful. When modern people see them, sometimes they think, wow, that's impossible without advanced technology. Some even imagine that extraterrestrial visitors aliens must have helped? And great imagination made these wonders. In today's episode, we'll visit 6 famous sites often linked to alien theories: the Inca fortress of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, the mysterious Nazca lines, also in Peru, the gigantic pyramids of Giza in Egypt, the stone circle of Stonehenge in England, the city of Teotihuacan, Mexico, and Easter Island, or Rapa Nui Island, or as we call it in Spanish, Isla de Pascua. Together, we'll explore what makes each site so amazing, why people sometimes think aliens were involved, and what science and archaeology really tell us. So get ready for a journey through history, mystery, and human genius. Let's begin. Okay, Leonardo, show us the next slide, please. Fun idea, aliens or human genius? Do you see this picture? This is what we call a backhoe, one machine used for construction. Let's start with a fun question. Could aliens have helped build ancient sites? It's easy to see why people might think so. Imagine standing in front of the Great Pyramid of Giza, looking up at millions of giant stone blocks stacked one on top of the other one with perfect precision. Or walking near the Nazca Desert and realizing that huge animal figures stretch across the ground. Figures so large you can only really see them from above. These things can feel impossible. For many people, it's natural to wonder, how could humans, thousands of years ago, with no modern machines, no cranes, and no airplanes, build something so impressive? The idea of alien helpers can feel like an exciting answer. There are also stories in popular culture that keep these ideas alive. Movies, TV shows, and books often suggest that ancient monuments might be signs of extraterrestrial contact. The idea sells books, makes entertaining films, and captures people's imagination. It's fun to imagine that a spaceship landed long ago and gave humans secret knowledge. But here is where science steps in. Archaeologists, scientists who study ancient human cultures, have searched for real evidence of aliens in history. They have looked for materials that are not from Earth, for advanced technology hidden in ancient ruins, for messages or carvings that clearly show visitors from another world. And the result is clear. They have found no evidence at all. Instead, archaeologists have found something else, something even more interesting. They have found evidence of human creativity, skill, and cooperation. They have found tools, workshops, roads, and records that show how ancient people organized themselves to build things. They have found signs of teamwork, rituals, and traditions that explain why these monuments were important to their communities. Believing in aliens might sound exciting, but it can also be unfair. When people say aliens must have built the pyramids, they are taking away the credit from the Egyptians who actually built them. When they say aliens designed the Nazca lines, they ignore the imagination of millions of humans who built them. What does this site tell us about the people who built it? What does this site tell us about the people who built it? What skills, beliefs, and dreams did they have? By the end of this journey, I think you'll agree human history is powerful enough without needing visitors from outer space. Okay, let's go to our first site, Sacsayhuaman. Our first stop takes us high into the Andes Mountains of South America to the ancient city of Cusco in Peru. Here we find the massive stone fortress of Sacsayhuaman, one of the most remarkable constructions of the Inca civilization. Sacsayhuaman was built about 1,000 years ago during the height of the Inca Empire. It sits on a hill above Cusco, and from its walls you can look down on the city. The name itself can be translated as Satisfied Falcon, and many believe the site was both a ceremonial and military center. What makes Sacsayhuaman so amazing is not just its size, but the way it was built. The fortress walls are made from giant stones. Here in the picture, we can see the size of some of these stones. We have a very little human standing in front of a gigantic rock. Some of them weighed more than 200 tons. To give you an idea, that's as heavy as 150 small cars. Even today, moving a stone that big would be extremely difficult without modern cranes and other machines. And yet, the Inca managed to do it centuries ago. The stones were cut with extraordinary precision. When you walk along the walls, you can see how each stone fits perfectly with the next, like a giant puzzle. The stones have many sides. Some have more than a dozen edges. And each one was shaped so carefully that it locks into place. There is no space between them, not even for a knife blade. The fit is so tight that the walls have survived hundreds of years of earthquakes without falling. This is where the alien theories come in. Some people look at Sacsayhuaman and think, there is no way humans could have done this. They suggest that only extraterrestrials with advanced technology could have cut and lifted stones so perfectly. But again, the real story is more human and more impressive. Archaeologists have studied the site closely. They believe the Inca used a combination of intelligence, engineering, and teamwork. The stones were not cut with lasers or machines from space. They were shaped using stone hammers made from harder rock. The Inca workers could chip away slowly, creating the exact edges they needed. As for moving the stones, the Inca had clever methods. They didn't have wheels or horses, but they had ropes, logs, and many, many hands. It's likely that groups of people worked together to drag the stones over the land, pulling them with thick ropes. Wooden rollers may have helped move the stones along the paths or along the roads that they used. Levers, simple tools using wooden beams, could then help position the stones into place. In fact, some experiments today show that with enough people and the right techniques, it is possible to move stones that weigh hundreds of tons. It takes planning, patience, and community effort. The Inca were masters at organizing large groups of workers, often bringing together people from across the empire for big projects. So, why does Sacsayhuaman matter? Because it shows the intelligence and skill of the Inca. They didn't need aliens, they had their own knowledge, materials, their own tools, and above all, their own vision of what they wanted to create. And when we think about it, isn't that more inspiring? To know that human beings living centuries ago with no electricity and no engines could create a fortress so strong and beautiful that it still stands today? Next time you see a photo of Sacsayhuaman, or even better, if you ever travel to Cusco and walk along its walls, remember this. You're not just looking at stones, you're looking at a message from the past, a message that says humans can do incredible things. That's Sacsayhuaman, an Inca masterpiece, often claimed to be alien, but in reality a triumph of human hands. Okay, let's go to our next segment, Nazca Lives. Now we stay in Peru, but this time we travel to the coastal desert, about 400 kilometers south of Lima. Here, on a dry plateau that stretched for miles, lies one of the most mysterious and breathtaking works of ancient art, the Nazca Lines. The Nazca Lines are not buildings or walls, they are geoglyphs, large designs drawn on the ground. From above, they form pictures of animals, plants, and geometric shapes. You can see monkeys, hummingbirds, spiders, whales, and geometric patterns like spirals and triangles. Some figures are as long as 366 meters. That's the size of three football fields placed end to end. The strange thing that from the ground, these designs are hard to recognize. You walk through the desert and see long, shallow lines. Here on the top right, we can see the picture that we can see is the picture of the one of the lines. So if you're standing there in the desert, you don't see much. You just see a little line in the ground. Now, if you go up high on a mountain, a small tower, or in modern times, an airplane, the pictures suddenly appear. They look like giant drawings on the earth. This mystery has fascinated people for centuries. When the Nazca lines were rediscovered in the early 20th century, some scholars wonder how the ancient Nazca people could have designed shapes so big and so accurate without being able to fly. And of course, others quickly suggested a more fantastic answer. Maybe aliens made them, or maybe the lines were signals or landing strips for spaceships. It's true that the lines are best seen from the sky, but that does not mean the Nazca needed alien technology. Archaeologists have studied how the lines were created, and the explanation is simple but brilliant. The desert floor in this region has a dark surface made of small rocks and sand. Beneath, under this surface, is a lighter colored layer. The Nazca people scraped away the dark surface tones to reveal the light layer below. That contrast is what makes the lines visible. It's that simple. As for the scale and precision, scientists believe the Nazca used a system of ropes, here in the picture, wooden stakes, here in the picture, and simple geometry. By placing stakes in the ground and connecting them with ropes, they could measure distances and angles. With careful planning, they could draw huge but proportionate figures. In fact, experiments in the 20th century proved this. With just ropes and sticks, modern researchers recreated large geoglyphs that looked exactly like the originals when viewed from above. But the biggest question remains, why did the Nazca create them? Why spend so much time and energy making giant drawings that can't really be seen from the ground? There are several theories. Some experts believe the lines had religious or spiritual meaning. The desert is one of the driest places on Earth, and water was precious for the Nazca people. Many figures may be related to water, fertility, or prayers for rain. Other researchers suggest that the lines could be ritual paths, like ritual roads. People may have walked along the lines during ceremonies, connecting themselves with the figures of animals that were sacred to them. Interesting, Interestingly, you don't actually need to fly to see the lines. If you stand on the nearby hills, the nearby mountains, you can already of a huge hummingbird or spider carved into the Peruvian desert. Remember this. It's not a message from outer space. It's a message from the Nazca people, telling us about their creativity, their rituals, and their hope for life in a difficult environment. Okay, that is the real magic of the Nazca.
Lo que ocurre en la universidad, los acontecimientos y sus protagonistas están en UMNG Radio.
Okay, now the incredible pyramids of Giza. Very, very, very famous. Now we leave South America and cross the ocean to Africa, to one of the most iconic and mysterious places on Earth, the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. When most people think of ancient monuments, the Great Pyramid is usually the first image that comes to mind. It is enormous, elegant, and perfectly shaped. Built more than 4,500 years ago, it still stands tall on the desert plateau near Cairo, along with two smaller pyramids, temples, and the famous Sphinx. The Giza complex has amazed travelers for thousands of years. The Great Pyramid, built for the pharaoh Khufu, is especially impressive. Originally, it rose to about 146 meters high, almost the height of a 50-story building. Keep in mind that our tower here called Patria Tower has about 42, 46 floors. So we're talking about something close to that. So it's enormous, elegant, and perfectly shaped. Huh? That's incredible. It was the tallest human-made structure in the world for more than 3,800 years. The pyramid is made of around 2.3 million stone blocks each weighing about 2.5 tons. Imagine moving millions of heavy stones one by one with no cranes, no bulldozers, and no trucks. Just people, ropes, and wooden sleds. It's no wonder that some people think aliens must have been involved. Over the years, many books and television shows have suggested that the pyramids are too advanced for humans of the ancient world. Some even claim that the three pyramids of Giza align perfectly with the star of, as we see in the picture, right? Orion's belt, the famous Cinturón de Orión, hinting at cosmic knowledge beyond human ability. But archaeologists and historians give us a different picture, one that is just as extraordinary, but very human. First, let's think about the workforce. The pyramids were built not by slaves, as older stories sometimes said. Archaeological evidence shows that tens of thousands of workers lived in nearby villages while building the pyramids. They were skilled laborers organized into teams, and they worked in shifts. These workers were fed, housed, and cared for. Building the pyramids was not just labor, it was also a national project, a way of honoring the pharaoh and unifying the people. Second, let's think about technology. How did they move the stones? Recent research shows that the Egyptians likely used wooden sleds pulled by teams of men across the desert sand. When workers poured water onto the sand in front of the sled, think of Santa Claus. That's something similar to the sled, his vehicle. Okay, so when workers poured water onto the sand in front of the sled, it reduced friction and made the sled easier to drag. This simple but clever trick could cut the effort by half. For lifting stones, ramps, as we see in the picture, a ramp next to the pyramid, ramps made of mud brick and limestone debris were probably built around the pyramid. As the pyramid rose higher and higher, the ramps were extended, allowing stones to be dragged up to the next level. Third, let's think about planning. Building a pyramid was not just about muscles, it was about math and organization. The Egyptians had a strong knowledge of geometry and astronomy. They used the stars and the sun to align their monuments with remarkable precision. The Great Pyramid, for example, is aligned almost perfectly with the four cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. That shows not alien magic, but careful observation of the sky. So when we admire the pyramids of Giza, we should admire not aliens, but humans. Imagine thousands of workers pulling together, engineers designing ramps and sleds, and leaders coordinating an enormous project. It was a human achievement of organization, vision, and persistence. The pyramids were also symbols. They were built as tombs for pharaohs, but they were also messages of power and eternity. The pyramid shape pointed to the heavens, connecting the pharaoh with the gods. They were meant to last forever, and in a way, they have. Today, when people say the pyramids must have been built by aliens, they are forgetting the true story, that humans, thousands of years ago, were capable of brilliance. They didn't need visitors from the stars. They only needed their own creativity, their knowledge of nature, and their determination to honor their leaders, and their gods. That is why the pyramids of Giza still stand as one of the greatest wonders of the world. Not because aliens touched them, but because humans imagined them, designed them, and brought them to life. Okay.
Lo que ocurre en la universidad, los acontecimientos y sus protagonistas están en UMNG Radio. La Tierra nos habla en colores, en texturas, en vida. Cada trazo es un puente entre nuestra esencia y el mundo que habitamos. La Universidad Militar Nueva Granada te invita a expresar tu compromiso con el medio ambiente y los derechos humanos a través del arte. Participa en el concurso de pintura Raíces, trazos por la tierra y la vida. Óleo, acuarela, acrílico y más, con premios de hasta 3 millones de pesos. Inscribe tu obra del 12 al 31 de agosto. Deja que tu arte inspire un mundo más compasivo, solidario y comprometido con la vida. Lo que ocurre en la universidad, los acontecimientos y sus protagonistas están en UMNG Radio.
Okay, our next stop takes us to the rolling plains of southern England, where one of the most famous and mysterious monuments of Europe still stands, Stonehenge. Stonehenge is a circle, as we can see in the picture, a very famous place. It's a circle of giant standing stones, some weighing more than 25 tons, arranged in a pattern that has puzzled people for centuries. The monument was built in several stages, starting around 3100 before the Common Era, more than 4,600 years ago. That makes it older than the pyramids of Egypt. When you look at Stonehenge today, you see massive stones standing upright, some with horizontal stones placed carefully across the top. Many of the stones came from far away. The smaller blue stones were transported from Wales, about 150 miles from the site. Imagine moving huge stones across hills and rivers without trucks or trains. That fact alone makes Stonehenge a wonder of ancient engineering. Because Stonehenge is so unusual, people have always created stories to explain it. In the Middle Ages, some legends said the wizard Merlin, here we have a picture of a modern Merlin from the King Arthur tales. Remember this famous king and this famous wizard? So the legend says that this Merlin built Stonehenge with his magical powers. Later, as alien theories became popular, some writers suggested that Stonehenge was a landing pad for spaceships, or a message to visitors from the stars. After all, the stones seem to be aligned with the movements of the sun and moon. Could it be that someone or something not from Earth gave ancient people the knowledge to design it? But again, archaeology provides us with strong human answers. Excavations around Stonehenge show evidence of tools, homes, and burial sites. These discoveries tell us that Stonehenge was part of a larger community, not an alien mystery. How was it built? Researchers think that people used wooden sleds, we mentioned them before with the pyramids, and ropes to drag the stones across the landscape. To stand them upright, they may have dug deep holes, tilted the stones in, and then pulled them up with ropes and levers. To place the horizontal stones on top, workers probably built earth ramps, sliding the stones up and into place. With enough time, planning, and cooperation, these methods work. Modern experiments with volunteers have proven it is possible to raise large stones using only simple tools and teamwork. So, why was Stonehenge built? This is the biggest mystery. Archaeologists believe it was not just one thing, but many. The alignment of the stones with the sunrise at the summer solstice and the sunset at the winter solstice suggests that it was a kind of solar calendar. People may have gathered there to celebrate the longest day of the year and the shortest day. At the same time, evidence of burials shows it was also a place connected to death, ancestors, and rituals. In other words, Stonehenge was probably a ceremonial site, part calendar, part temple, part cemetery. Whatever its exact purpose, Stonehenge shows how much effort people were willing to give to create a sacred place. Moving stones from 150 miles away, shaping them, arranging them so carefully, it was not easy. But it must have been deeply meaningful to the community. And that is the lesson. We don't need aliens to explain Stonehenge. We only need to understand the people of prehistoric Britain, their beliefs, their social organization, and their connection with the sky and the land. Today, every year at the summer solstice, thousands of people still gather at Stonehenge to watch the sunrise. Here in the picture, we can see one of such meetings. When the sun appears over the hailstone and its rays shine into the heart of the circle, you feel a direct connection with the past. You stand in the same place where ancient people once gathered, watching the same sunrise, marking the same cycle of life. That is not alien technology. That is human tradition, human faith, and human genius. Excuse me. Stonehenge remains one of the greatest reminders that even without machines, without modern science, our ancestors created monuments that still inspire us thousands of years later. Okay. Later, let's move into the next one. Oh, look at this beauty. Teotihuacan. Next, we travel to central Mexico to visit an ancient city called Teotihuacan. This city is one of the most important archaeological sites in the Americas. It sits about 40 to 50 kilometers northeast of modern Mexico City. Teotihuacan grew to become a very large city many centuries ago. At its height, around 100 to 500 Common Era, the city may have held between 100,000 and 200,000 people. That made it one of the largest cities in the world at that time. The place covered many square kilometers and had wide streets, big plazas, and apartment compounds where many people lived. The most famous parts of Teotihuacan are its great pyramids. The Pyramid of the Sun is very large in the picture, and the Pyramid of the Moon in the picture is also impressive. A wide ceremonial road called the Avenue of the Dead runs through the center of the city. These monuments show careful planning and strong social unity. Because Teotihuacan is so big and its stones are so heavy, some people have suggested strange explanations. In some popular stories, the city's scale is taken as evidence that only outsiders or advanced visitors could have helped build it. National Geographic and many other writers have discussed why people sometimes think ancient sites were built by aliens. But like with the other monuments we discussed, there is no scientific evidence that extraterrestrials built Teotihuacan. The real explanations are human. Archaeologists studying Teotihuacan find many signs of human skill and organization. The city shows repeated building projects, skilled stonework, and large teams of workers. People used local materials like stone and adobe and developed standard building styles. For example, as we can see in the picture, talud tablero architectural form. The construction involved planners, laborers, specialists, and artisans, a full community working together to make lasting monuments. We also find evidence of trade and culture. Teotihuacan exported obsidian tools to other regions. Here in the picture, we can see some arrow tips made of obsidian. So murals and artifacts show a rich religious life and links with other Mesoamerican cultures. The city's influence reached far beyond its walls, and its design inspired later civilizations. These facts point to a powerful local civilization, no foreign builders from another world. So, what should we take with us? Teotihuacan is another example of human achievement. It shows how people long ago created complex cities, moved large stones, and built monuments that served religious, social, and political purposes. Saying aliens did it takes away the story of these people, their skills, their beliefs, and their work. The true story is about human creativity and cooperation. Okay, and take a look at this beautiful new site, Easter Island, or as the locals call it, Rapa Nui, or as is popular in Spanish, Isla de Pascua. Next, we travel far into the Pacific Ocean to a small, lonely island called Rapa Nui, also known as Easter Island. This island is famous for its huge stone figures called moai. These statues are one of the world's most famous ancient works of art. There are around 1,000 moai on the island. Many of them still stand on stone platforms. The statues often look like large heads, but they actually have bodies, as we can see in the picture. Many are partly buried in the ground. The average moai is about 4 meters tall and can weigh several tons. The stone for most moai comes from a volcanic quarry on the island called Rano Raraku. The moai were carved between about the 10th and 16th centuries Common Era. The people who made them were the ancestors of today's Rapa Nui community. The Rapa Nui people organized big building projects, moved heavy stones, and set the statues on platforms called ahu. The quarries and the ahu give archaeologists direct evidence of how the statues were made and moved. Because the statues are so large and the island is remote, some people have suggested strange ideas, like the idea that aliens helped build the Moai. But archaeologists find strong human explanations. The Moai were carved from local volcanic stone using stone tools. People likely moved them with ropes, logs, and careful teamwork. Modern experiments show that with the right methods, people can move and erect large stone figures using only simple tools. That makes the human explanation realistic and convincing. One interesting idea about how the Moai were moved is the walking theory. Some researchers and experimenters have shown that a statue can be rocked and pulled with ropes so that it walks in a controlled way. This method does not need rollers or long wooden sleds and fits some archaeological clues on the island. Still, multiple moving techniques may have been used in different places and times. We have a short video. Did we get the video? Yeah. Okay, so while we get the video, let me continue to show how these Moais walked. The Moai were not just art, they were symbols of power and ancestors. The statues likely represented important clan leaders or revered family members. The platforms, the ahu, and the careful placement of Moai show that they were part of ritual life and social order. When outsiders suggest aliens build the statues, again, as we said before, they erase the story of the people who lived, worked, and worshipped there for centuries. Today, Rapa Nui is a protected area and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Researchers still take a look. This is the video. Okay. A video taken on the island of Rapa Nui showing how these giant rocks can walk, huh? Leonardo, what do you think? Look at the Moai walking, huh? Okay. Today, as I was saying, today Rapa Nui is a protected area and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Researchers still discover new finds. For example, archaeologists recently reported finding a previously unknown Moai in the Rano Raraku crater. At the same time, rising seas and coastal changes are a growing threat to some Moai and their platforms, so conservation is urgent. Later. These facts remind us that the Moai are living heritage, important to both local people and the whole world. Takeaway, take this with you. Easter Island is another clear example. Huge stones and remote location do not mean aliens. The Moai are the product of human planning, skill, belief, and community. Learning how the statues were carved, moved, and placed gives us real and inspiring stories about the people of Rapa Nui. Okay, so let's see why humans matter. We have now visited 6 incredible sites: Sacsayhuaman, Peru; the mysterious Nazca Lines, Peru; the gigantic pyramids of Giza in Egypt; the stone circle of Stonehenge in England; the city of Teotihuacan; and Rapa Nui Island. Each one is impressive, is breathtaking. Each one has inspired people to imagine stories of alien visitors, and yet the truth is even more impressive. They were all built by humans. So why does this matter? Why is this important? Because it's important to remind ourselves that people, not aliens, build these monuments. First, because it gives credit where credit is due. When we say that aliens must have built the pyramids or the Nazca lines, we take away the achievements of the people who actually lived, worked, and dreamed. The Inca, the Nazca, the Egyptians, the Aztec, the Rapa Nui, and the people of ancient Britain all had rich cultures, strong communities, and deep knowledge of their world. They deserve to be honored for what they created. Second, because it shows us the power of human imagination. Think about it. Our ancestors did not have electricity, computers, or engines, but they had something just as important: curiosity, creativity, and cooperation. They wanted to build things that lasted, things that connected them to their gods, the rulers, or the universe. They wanted to make their mark on the world, and they succeeded. Third, because it teaches us a lesson for today. When we face challenges, whether building something new, protecting the planet, or solving problems in our communities, we can remember what humans are capable of. If people thousands of years ago could move 100-ton stones with only ropes and teamwork, what can we do today with all our technology? And finally, because it makes history more meaningful. If aliens build these sites, then they are not really part of our story. But if humans build them, then they belong to us. They are chapters in the great book of human history, reminders of where we come from and what we can achieve together. So next time you hear someone say, aliens must have built that, you can smile and say, no, humans did. And that's even more amazing. Okay, so that's the end of our program today. Thank you so much for joining me today on Tune In and Speak Up, the podcast from Universidad Militar Nueva Granada. Don't forget to share it with your classmates, your friends, or fellow English learners. This season, we'll continue exploring unusual but meaningful topics that show how language, history, and everyday life are deeply connected. If today's episode helped you learn something new or gave you a new perspective on culture and communication, then our mission is complete. If you'd like to share your thoughts, reflections, or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Your ideas help us improve, and your voice helps us shape future episodes. This podcast is for learners like you, curious, committed, and ready to take the next step. We'll be back next week with another topic that might surprise you, make you think, or spark a conversation in English. In the meantime, keep listening, keep practicing, and most of all, keep speaking up. Until next time. Leito, thank you very much. Bye-bye. See you next week.
Tune in and speak up. Hello, English learners. Want to learn something interesting whilst having fun? Welcome to Tune In and Speak Up, the podcast where you'll get to know this beautiful language in depth. Each week, we'll dive into exciting topics, share practical tips, and tell you fascinating English language stories. So whether you're studying, going to work, or just relaxing, connect, listen, and let's make English part of your world. Wherever you are, whenever you want, just hit play, tune in and listen up. Tune in to Ingenuity Radio every Tuesday from 11 a.m. till noon. Don't just learn English, live it.